All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, I want to tell you, all of you, thank you for your tremendous support. People are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do. They enjoy and respect the passion with which we speak. But as we always say here at Chin Check Sports Radio, we do this because we love it, as we are simply sharing our passions with you all as we continue to build our listening army to take over the world. You should know this by now. We are your go-to on YouTube for Dallas Cowboys coverage throughout the NFL season, as well as all Dallas Cowboys coverage throughout the year. The Dallas Cowboys Week 16 critical win at home, and we'll get to the reasons why later. Critical win at home 2019 against the tough and rugged Detroit Lions. Let's jump to our numbers here. Quarterback Dak Prescott, 26 of 38 attempts, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tony Pollard, 16 carries, 49 yards. C.D. Lamb, 13 catches, 227 yards. Brandon Cooks, 5 catches, 60 yards. Both gentlemen had a touchdown. On the defensive side, Donovan Wilson, 11 total tackles, 6 solo, 1 interception. Marquise Bell, 10 total tackles, 8 solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Jaron Kearse, 10 total tackles, 7 solo. Micah Parsons, 6 total tackles, 5 solo, 2 tackles for a loss. Jordan Lewis, you can make an argument, was the defensive player of the game. 6 total tackles, 3 solo, 1 interception. DeMarcus Lawrence, 5 total tackles, 3 solo, 2 tackles for a loss. Very solid game. Deron Bland, 4 total tackles, 4 solo. Damon Clark, 4 total tackles, 3 solo. Dorrance Armstrong, 3 total tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss. Stephon Gilmore, 2 total tackles, 1 solo. Osa Adigazua, 2 total tackles. Dante Fowler, 1 total tackle, 1 solo tackle, 1 tackle for a loss. Chauncey Golston, 1 total tackle, 1 solo. Folks, you also know that here at Chin Check Sports Radio, we do not gloss over wins, nor do we overreact to losses. This definitely was a great win for the Cowboys. The good. And I guess before we even get to covering the game, the highlight of this game was the induction of former Dallas Cowboys coach Jimmy Johnson into the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. Hall of Fame coach Jimmy Johnson, years ago when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, we did a whole broadcast on that, so please check the old broadcast for that. We are very happy that Jimmy got in. He more than deserved to be in the Ring of Honor. It's been 30 years, a long time coming. And I think every Cowboys fan watching his speech felt the emotion when you saw all those Cowboys greats that he coached on the field. Charles Haley, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and you saw other players, the James Washingtons and other players that as he was walking out to the field that he had high five. And I think the current generation who was young at that time, anybody born in 1990 or obviously folks born after that, really truly don't understand what a magical time it was to be a Dallas Cowboy. For Jimmy Johnson to take a team that was 1-15 coming from the college ranks, the University of Miami, drafting all those players, and it was just a magical time to be a Dallas Cowboy fan, and that was us coming of age, really understanding what we were watching and that team, and it was something that he just had that team on point. So you can go into what if he didn't leave, could they have won more Super Bowls? That's been a conversation for the last 30 years. But Jimmy Johnson more than deserved to be in the Cowboys Ring of Honor. It was well deserved. If anybody watched the Hall of Fame announcement on Fox 5, people clearly were getting emotional, us included. You saw Troy Aikman crying, getting emotional. A lot of people got emotional behind Jerry, even Jimmy himself, going into the Hall of Fame. So I'm sure it was the same thing to get into the Ring of Honor. So we definitely want to say congratulations to Jimmy Johnson. Well deserved. Thank you, Coach, for pretty much rebuilding the brand of the Dallas Cowboys. They were a hot commodity in the 70s and early 80s, crashed and burned in the 80s, and because of the talent that he drafted, the Hall of Famers that he drafted or traded for, he pretty much made that team the team of the 1990s. So congratulations, Coach. well-deserved. And from all of us at Chin Check Sports Radio, you definitely were a fixture in our childhood, watching this team, knowing that there was nothing that they couldn't overcome, knowing how tough you were on the team. So congratulations, Coach. So now going into this game, CeeDee Lamb, folks, this guy, from all the talk in the offseason of him only being a slot receiver, CeeDee Lamb is one of the best receivers in football, folks, and it's not even a conversation. Breaking the single-season Cowboys record in reception and reception yards. I mean, this guy has been a terror all season long. From the debacle in San Francisco, where whatever meet now was had or voices was raised, this guy has been on a tear ever since. Dallas Cowboys in the offseason, let's pay this guy. Let's go ahead and let's lock him up, because CeeDee Lamb is the truth, and he is a matchup for any and all DBs out there. Definitely excellent job by CeeDee Lamb. We definitely want to show some love to Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks made on one particular scoring drive, made some key catches, and this guy makes these key catches. So if it's something that the Cowboys can maybe work out a deal to try to keep him, please do. I think this guy is a valuable asset to the team. Still looking for Michael Gallup, but that's another conversation for another day. But definitely Brandon Cooks, great catches, clutch catches, and everything with it. Definitely have to show a little bit to the Cowboys secondary. We thought they did a decent job of trying to contain a lot of Detroit's weapons. Deron Bland, we don't think he had his best game, but he is vulnerable to getting beat. I know he was beaten on one go route by Jameson Williams. So again, but you can't always be perfect, but hey, it is what it is. Mike McCarthy. Folks, when we say we don't gloss over wins, here's why. Now, I understand that if you put everything together, things that led up to it. When you wonder why we're pushing to bring in a Derrick Henry at the trade deadline, let's go to the fourth quarter here. We go to the fourth quarter. We see where the Cowboys could have ran out the clock. They got the ball late. And anybody watching those Cowboys teams in the 90s that we just mentioned, when the Cowboys had a lead late, what did the Cowboys do? They pounded the offensive line and he ran Emmitt Smith. So before somebody says that we don't have that caliber of offensive line, I agree with you, but we don't have that caliber of running back. Tony Pollard is not that thick workhorse back, which is why we stated to get a Derrick Henry during the trade deadline. So because the Cowboys could not run the football, as evidenced by, as we mentioned before, his 16 carries for 49 yards, 3.1 yards a carry, and one long run of 18. It was a problem running the football. I get it. The Detroit Lions are a very tough running defense, and we faced two top running defenses in the last couple of weeks in the Dolphins as well as the Lions, but it's still no damn excuse. So the Cowboys have an overrun game, which is why we stated bringing a Derrick Henry. Yes, I know Deuce Vaughn was a feel-good story because his dad was a scout for the team or employed by some capacity in the team. And I know that it made people feel good. It was a heartwarming story for him to call his son to say, hey, you want to come to work with me and you're drafted, and everybody got emotional and it was a real tearjerker. But what really has he contributed to the roster? It is what it is. So no shade, but what really has he contributed in the running game? And again, he was inactive for the last 6 games. Rico Dowdell is hurt. But again, we kept pushing to get a Derrick Henry because with a lead like that late trying to run timeout, the Cowboys could have been able to run the football. Now let's go on to Mike McCarthy. Not being able to run a football in a 2-minute drive, calling passes, not making them burn timeouts, saving time on the clock, which you're giving them time to drive the ball down the field. This was all on Mike McCarthy. This is not the first time that Mike McCarthy's Mike McCarthy's clock management and game management has been called into question. If you want to say play calling at the wrong time, that's fine, but that's game management, clock management. You know the team has to burn timeouts. Burn the timeouts. Let them burn the timeouts. We know coaching is a very hard job. It's very high pressured. So, of course, this is just from a fan analysis and from a fan's perspective. We're not on the field with the high intensity that's going on. We definitely get all that. But we are fans. And, of course, that was a horrible coaching move. And I think that events that transpired afterwards saved Mike McCarthy's bacon, but we cannot gloss over that, and he should have been called to task for that. Thank you, Ed Warder, for even asking him that in the post-game conference, because that was awful. And Troy Aikman even said it best. Had the Cowboys not been calling passing plays and that consistently run the football, which is why you get a Derrick Henry and call those passing plays, and of course you're stopping the clock, you would have burned at least 40 seconds off the clock, and what transpired afterwards probably wouldn't have happened had Mike McCarthy did the better option as opposed to actually passing the football. So he should be called out on that, and he damn near cost the football game. Now let's go to what happened. Lions get the ball, drive the ball down the field, and now it goes into the two-point conversion, whether who reported eligible or ineligible, whether number 70 reported, number 68 reported. Either way, whoever reported, if they said the wrong person, it was an illegal formation. That's a penalty. It definitely should have been flagged. Let's go back to the next two-point conversion. Micah Parsons jumping off sides, negates an interception, and the Cowboys defense, they held on to win. Obviously, the score we mentioned was 20-19. Now, when we talked about how this win was such a big win, folks, this is why games in December matter, and this is why they play the games. The Dallas Cowboys, right now, as we speak, are the number 2 seed in the NFC. What does that mean, Chin Check Sports Radio? If the Dallas Cowboys handle their business at the Washington Commanders, who spanked them last year in Washington going into the playoffs, if the Dallas Cowboys go in there and handle business against the Washington Commanders on the road, the Dallas Cowboys will finish up as number 1, the NFC East champions, and number 2, most importantly, the number 2 seed in the NFC. Who would have thunk it when the Eagles was running roughshod over the league? Who would have thunk it? Cowboys win the division, they're the number 2 seed. Why is that significant, Chin Check? Because the Cowboys would have their first playoff game would be at home. If they win that playoff game, the next playoff game would be at home. So the Cowboys potentially can have 2 playoff games at home before they hypothetically go on, well, I say hypothetically, if the matchup occurs with San Francisco in the NFC Championship game, if the higher ranking teams beat all the lower ranking teams. Again, not looking ahead, focus on the Washington Commanders. Dallas Cowboys, do not go in there sleepwalking. You have a prime opportunity. Do not piss this away. Go in there, beat the hell out of Washington. I know it's a divisional opponent on the road, but at this point, the Commanders have they're pretty much packing the U-Haul. They got garbage bags waiting to clean out their lockers. Help them clean their lockers out. Get them the hell out of there. And let's just keep it moving. So we don't have time to mess around. Go in there, blow these guys out, start resting players to get ready for the playoffs the following week. So the Cowboys are in a prime position to make a playoff run. This falls on Dak Prescott. This falls on Dan Quinn. This falls on Mike McCarthy. Right now, the lane is set for guys to make some noise in the playoffs. Do not screw this up and start this next week by blowing the Commanders out. I didn't say beat the Commanders, blowing them out. I know they want to play spoiler against the NFC East rival and their arch rival, the Cowboys. Whatever. Get them the hell out of there. It's just that damn simple. Again, last game of the season. They're tired. They're talking about interviewing another coach to fire Ron Rivera, trading some of their best players. Go in there and get them the hell out of there by the third. That gets you over by the third quarter, if we're really being honest with ourselves. So Cowboys, go in there and do what we have to do. Now, on to and I know some Lions fans are probably listening to this when they say, well, the referee screwed us and they helped the Cowboys and it's a conspiracy theory. I like to kind of throw in your face a tripping penalty that was called on the tight end that really should have been called on Aiden Hutchinson, that would have advanced the ball forward and probably would have killed more time off the clock. But that's neither here nor there. Again, we're still criticizing Mike McCarthy for his boneheaded play calling at the worst time and stuff like that when it goes into clock management and time management. This is how people get out-coached. And in the playoffs, these things can't come back to bite you. So we don't have time for this foolishness. We have time to make it happen. Run defense, I need you to make it happen. So other than that, great by the Cowboys. Definitely a huge win, and this is why these games matter. So the Cowboys control their destiny, winning the NFC East as well as locking up the number 2 seed. We just laid it out for you guys. Don't screw this up. But before we finish up this broadcast, I definitely want to say thank you for your support during 2023. This has been another great year for us. When we say we thank you for your support, when we say people are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do, we actually mean that. We don't ask for subscribers. If you like the program, you can please subscribe. Please listen to us when people send us comments. We generally love to respond. We definitely get a lot of good feedback in what we do. Some people, again, have offered their criticism or their critiques or ways to improve the program, or they're giving us suggestions and ideas for shows to do. So we take all that into consideration, and we welcome all that. Are we going to change anything that we do in 2024? Absolutely not. We're going to have fun with what we do because this is fun for us. And this year was great. Obviously, you've been listening. We've covered all the Cowboys news, starting from the wild card game this year when they effectively retired Tom Brady, to the loss in San Francisco, to Mike McCarthy taking over. We had some great fights in the world of professional boxing, from the Errol Spence Jr. to Terrence Crawford, Tank Davis to Ryan Garcia, to we had Devin Haney and Lomachenko, to Devin Haney versus Prograis, and we didn't even do a broadcast for that. So we had great fights in the year of boxing, and we thank all those fighters for giving us the quality fights that we need, because oftentimes fight fans, we want the big fights, and then cast the fighters out to the side. And to be honest with you, the way fight fans show their tail against these losing fighters was actually rather disgusting, but we don't want to take too much from that. But we want to say thank you to Errol Spence, Bud Crawford, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, Stephen Fulton, the guy Inoue. We definitely want to say thank you guys for making these big fights. We definitely want to say thank you, Devin Haney, Vasyl Lomachenko, Reggie Prograis. Folks, making these fights is why we love the sport so much, and we only hope and continue that quality fights are made in 2024. Folks, it's more likely going to be our last broadcast of the year, so we definitely want to say Happy New Year. Thank you very much for your support. It's always greatly appreciated. And until the next time, this is Chin Check Radio. Signing out.